Tyler Werner Show on this Tuesday, August 11th, in the middle of training camp. We're going to get to the call out of a week in just a moment, but we had obviously the NFL Hall of Fame preseason game the other day. The opening to preseason football is back. Well, preseason football, albeit a 14-3 Vikings preseason victory over the Pittsburgh Steelers. And surely enough, last week, the Eagles getting rid of Brandon Boykin and, after breaking up a pass, now being on the Pittsburgh Steelers in that secondary for the Pittsburgh Steelers. After, one play, Al Michaels and Chris Collinsworth calling the game the other night. Chris Collinsworth, for those who didn't see the game, went on to, basically comment that he thought last year, he said last year, he was surprised that the Steelers were able to, get Brandon Boykin, that he thought that Boykin was the best cornerback on the Eagles roster last year. And I don't know, to some extent, I don't know, maybe you could make some kind of case for that, but to me, that was kind of a stupid thing to say, maybe, in that there's maybe some exaggeration when, Collinsworth says something like that, because, that's one of those, saying Brandon Boykin is better than, Bradley Fletcher, and, obviously the other cornerback on the other side. Essentially, we're saying he's, that Brandon Boykin was the skinniest fat guy in a group of fat guys, Collinsworth. I don't know, but nevertheless, and I'm hearing how people are saying oh, he had a pick six in practice the other day, for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and oh man, and let's not go overboard here. As far as the Eagles are concerned, obviously, they didn't. There's something like, he's 5'9" for one thing. I guess that is, the whole, we want big guys and everything. Sure. They could have put Boykin in last year when, obviously, our secondary was, the Eagles secondary was stinking it up, especially down the stretch in the season and at other various points. Maybe they could have had him as a slot guy or whatever. Let's not, I guess, go overboard. But at the same time, as far as the Eagles are concerned, would you feel better if Boykin was there for depth? And I think you got, the answer to that is yes. And maybe the same thing with Evan Mathis. I don't know. At least that's how I feel. Because his replacement, obviously, the guy that they had in mind to replace Brandon Boykin essentially on the depth chart, Ja'Cory Shepherd. And this is one of those, freak things, where Ja'Cory Shepherd, apparently, ran into Darren Sproles or something, and I don't know, and tore his ACL, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. This was another one of those open practices down at Lincoln Financial the other, over, apparently 40,000 plus in attendance. And, Ja'Cory Shepherd tears his ACL, essentially bringing an end to his season. So, you talk about that. That's a freak thing that happens after Brandon Boykin, essentially is sent out of Philadelphia, and just a week later, his essential replacement on the depth chart, taken, bye-bye for the season. And it's funny, you bring up the whole thing with tearing an ACL. It's obviously, and then of course, last week, obviously had Kiko Alonso with the concussion issue and everything, but it's funny for those who maybe were tuning into the Tyler Werner Show, maybe in the spring semester a couple of times. Maybe you've heard Matt Walsh on the Tyler Werner Show.
It's almost like a red herring in a way.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny because he posts, being his Facebook friends with him, and being, now it's training camp, he posts a lot of things, articles about what's going on with the Philadelphia Eagles and in the NFL in general. And apparently one of the stories that he posted actually yesterday, it's kind of ironic. There's supposedly there's an online petition for that Philadelphia Eagles fans have going around that to have Pope Francis bless Sam Bradford's needs when he comes here next month in September. And you got about a month or so until that happens, and of course maybe the question also you could throw out there is, well, I hate to make this kind of joke as well, but what if Sam Bradford re-tears his ACL before that, and it's like, well, maybe it could be too late. I don't know. As far as that goes, as the regular season goes on, and these first games, these first snaps that Sam Bradford is going to take, every time he gets knocked to the ground, or especially, maybe a blindside sack or something like that, Eagles fans are going to be holding their breath this season. That's the bottom line. And, we're hearing good things about him in camp, and that's great. Again, let's wait and see on the field in preseason game situations, let alone when the regular season is upon us. Let's, hold our thoughts until then. But obviously, let's hope that, every hit Bradford takes, it's, going to be one of those, hold your breath moments. And then maybe as the season goes along, maybe if he stays healthy, then maybe that concern will start to go away. But for now, there's supposedly that online petition going around. As far as you want to talk about ACLs and knees and everything, that's that. But, the Eagles, they obviously, Corey Shepard tears his ACL, which was unfortunate, but apparently they did just sign another replacement. I was reading earlier, a former 7th round pick, and I guess we'll see. Well, we'll see how that fares out. But I think the way I look at it here, as far as Boykin being gone and everything, it's one of those moves that, it might it might hurt the depth chart slightly or whatever, but it's one of those things. I'd probably rather have Boykin. Maybe they could have had him in the slot or something, being a corner and playing physical. I don't know, but that's pretty much that for now as far as that goes. As far as calling out people as well. Before we get to the call, here's one where some, I guess, reserve linebacker or whatever over in New York Jetsville, I guess if you want to call it that, Geno Smith, now out for 6 to 10 weeks with a broken jaw because one of his teammates sucker punched him. Again, this was a reserve line, a guy who may not have even made the team in the first place, and at this point probably has no chance of making the team after essentially, the quarterback. Now the Jets have to bring out Ryan Fitzpatrick of all people. So, I don't know. And then behind that they got, Bryce Petty, who they just drafted behind that. So, best of luck, Jets fans. You're gonna have Geno Smith out for 6 to 10 weeks. We'll see. Not I guess not good if you're, a New York Jets fan. But I mean, that's just one of those, like, you got to be a moron to do that. The starting quarterback of your team, and
What's the matter with you?
but I don't know. That's that's I guess for Jets fans to worry about. Now, I brought this up the other day on the Eagles, training camp report, and we'll get into it now as I've seen more footage, gotten more information on it. The Tyler Werner Show call out of the week.
It's time for Tyler Werner's call out of the week.
I just think somebody owes us an explanation, that's all.
What's the matter with you? Loser! You're a loser!
Are you kidding me?
Well, I have a microphone, and you don't.
So you will listen to every word I have to say!
I brought up the other day on the Tyler Werner Show. Yeah, I mean, it was something that I'm sure we've all heard of by now, but Deshaun Jackson, he ran into a sled at practice the other day. Well, actually, it was a scrimmage, and not to mention the Texans and the Redskins. I think the next day they got in a all-out brawl, and yesterday I'm hearing Cam Newton got in a fight with one of his teammates, and again you had this sucker punch with Geno Smith now out 6-10 with a broken jaw, and this stuff going around various training camps and scrimmages and whatever. But Deshaun Jackson, for those who haven't heard, he ran into this sled at practice the other day. And I'm not calling out Deshaun Jackson here, but I'm calling out, for those who have seen this, I'm calling out the coaching staff, the training staff, whatever you want to call it, the Washington Redskins. If you, I guess, Google this. If you Google the video of Deshaun Jackson running into this sled, essentially, the other day. I mean, it's not so much he ran into it, but to describe this video, if you haven't seen it yet, Deshaun Jackson, it appears he beats a guy on a fade route on the Texans in this scrimmage the other day, and essentially he catches the football, knowing Deshaun Jackson, the speedy guy he is, he catches the ball, basically going in the end zone, and again, I mean, beating a guy on a fade route like this, being as fast as Deshaun Jackson is catching the ball, obviously he's going to need some space, let's say, to decelerate, to slow down his running speed after catching the football. This is just kind of, this is standard here. And if you look at the video footage that, obviously I'm sure he's trying to do it at that point, but he's slowing down, he catches the ball. You hear, whoever filmed this, I mean, there's kind of some, security guards, I guess, in yellow shirts kind of blocking the incident, Deshaun Jackson actually running the sled. But and it's a shame too, because you hear fans like, yeah, that a boy, D-Jack and whatever, and he runs into this sled that is right, at the other side of the end zone, and it's like, what, why would you have? And it's a Washington Redskins sled. It has the Redskins logos on it. And I got to call out the coaching staff here and whatever, the training staff, because why would you have a sled that close to the end zone when when you got to think that guys are going to be trying to make catches within the, the end zone? Maybe you try to make a tiptoe catch or whatever, or, you're speedy Deshaun Jackson, you're blowing by somebody on a fade route for the end zone, and that appeared to be the case here in the case of this practice or scrimmage or whatever. And Deshaun Jackson, I mean, he goes to the ground and he tears his shoulder or whatever, catches his shoulder on the part of this, the metal part of this sled. because it was in the way, essentially. He didn't have anywhere to go. He's slowing down. He's obviously, he doesn't really have, I don't know, he can't really land any other way, I guess, at that point. And it's like, I don't blame Deshaun Jackson here for going and making the play in camp, but you got to blame the coaching staff for having a sled this close to the end zone. And then, Deshaun Jackson's laying there, holding his shoulder, obviously, because now he's going to be out for a few weeks. And then if you watch the video a little bit longer, seconds later, Deshaun Jackson's laying there in pain, and then you start seeing some coaches like, oh, you know what, let's, they start to push this sled out of the way. It's like, oh, yeah, maybe we ought to move this somewhere else. Congratulations, Washington on that. Fortunately for Deshaun Jackson, it sounds like he'll be back on the field, but it's like, can you be any more silly, any more dumb than that? Like, that's common sense right there. I don't know. When I heard, I joked about this the other day too. When I heard of this incident, I thought maybe, I don't know, Deshaun Jackson was, I don't know, maybe it was something that he could have avoided, but this is kind of something that is on the coaching staff for having a sled like that. And what if, like, one of the Texans receivers blew by? What if it was like one of the Texans wide receivers doing this, and then, not having, I guess, room to decelerate and then land on the sled and, then it's got Washington Redskins logo on it. It's like, well, you'd be, that could be a different issue there, but it's like, it's a no-brainer. Why do you have a sled that close to the end zone so that something like this happens? And again, it's just, go Google this video or an article that has the video, and it's just hard, It's like, oh, you know what, now, Deshaun Jackson's laying there holding his shoulder and everything. He landed on it. Yeah, maybe we ought to get that out of the way. So that's the call out of the week right here. And it's, a common sense lesson for anybody out, any football coaches out there, even, not even at the NFL level, but, high school. I've played football in high school, and I know that we never had any sleds in a silly spot like that where somebody might run into it. It's kind of common sense, I guess. And it's hard to believe that nobody else on the Redskins coaching staff at the time was thinking that, I guess. But I don't know. That's I guess that's their issue. This has been another segment, another call of the week of the Tyler Werner Show, right here on the YouTube channel and on the Facebook page.
Number one box office attraction, number one WWE superstar, multi-time WWE champion, Brock Lesnar.
Time to revamp your office space, eh? Looking for an interior decorator? Look no further than Brock Lesnar.
Now that's the way a real man uses a sledgehammer.
Out with the old, in with the new. Give Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman a call.
Mr. Lesnar, you're the future of interior decorator. I think we're done.
What is it about good sex that makes me have to crap? Guess it's all that pumping. Pump and dump.
Pump and dump. Never stop the pumping. Always keep her satisfied. Pump and dump.
You really jarred something loose, Tiger.